Good morning. Peace that surpasses all understanding. It's early. I'm on my way to work and actually parked right outside of work. Um, 6 a.m. ish. And very dark in my car. Loneliness. And I don't mean just like the kind of loneliness that you feel when, how do I put this? The varying, the levels of loneliness, from a very young age, someday you're going to grow up and you're going to get married and you're going to have a house and you're going to have companionship, and or friends, lifelong friends. I'm not talking about these outward types of loneliness. I'm talking about the inward types of loneliness where perhaps I've felt like an outsider, like I could be in a room full of people and still feel like there was oceans between us, I didn't resonate with the environment that I was in, and but the depth of that loneliness inside, how it manifested itself outwardly in my tangible physical existence, and how that there was in a book that I read recently, All to Love. When you are, a lot of people talk about soulmates or finding the one. We're not going to find. I mean, even in the best of relationships, we're not going to find that satisfaction. At least not in my experience. I don't want to speak for anybody else, but even in the best of my relationships, and as satisfying as they can be, I don't believe that we find that fulfillment in other. There can be affirmation and reflection from other, and those are wonderful things. Both from a positive standpoint and from a denser standpoint, where people are reflecting some of our darker or denser feelings, emotions, sensations. But going back to the reading the book, All to Love, M.J. Robertson, there was something in there regarding, when you are I want to use the right word, and I don't want to misquote, but the general gist of the idea is that when you are living from a place of unity within yourself, there is no compromise with other. It's not that no, it's my way or the highway. No. When you're both, when you're in a relationship, friendship, marriage, love interest, children, etc., whatever, when each one of us is fulfilling themselves, there is no compromise. There's an allowance for growth. There's an allowance for backsliding. There's whatever, there's equanimity. There's balance. It's and going to the loneliness and I'm going to use, and I don't mean any disrespect. This has to do with me, not with anybody else. But when I look at I was married twice, divorced twice. The first marriage, I got sober, and I could not simply put, I could not remain in that relationship, in that household, and have any expectation of remaining sober. It was a party, and there's no ill feelings about that, However, my second marriage, I had spent quite a few years just flying solo, and there was a lot of, the programming that well, maybe next time I'll get it right, or third time's a charm, or, there was always a lingering sense of wanting to have a relationship, having a romantic relationship, having a loving relationship, a relationship where I felt like I was in balance with my partner, and the longer I remained sober, those feelings, those deep feelings of loneliness, would trickle in, and more than trickle, and fast forward to meeting my former wife, my second wife, and seeing how I allowed things. There was no sovereignty in I was lonely. That's why I got married. That's why I engaged in this relationship. That's why I accepted and allowed certain things. It's really quite humorous. I look back on, I'm a child of, I was born in 1966, and I remember when Saturday Night Live came out. That was the greatest thing on it was freaking hilarious. But in later years, like during the 80s, there was a skit that they used to do regarding, I think the title of it was a reoccurring skit, Lowered Expectations Dating Service, and again, I don't mean any disrespect to my former wife. I was coming into this because I was coming into that relationship because I was lonely. Was there any genuine, heartfelt, emotional connection and attachment? Or was I just saying, well, I'm lonely and this is as good as it's going to get, and we had some wonderful times. We had some very passionate times, some very fun times. There was connection, but it was lacking that sovereignty, the sovereignty that she would have perhaps felt in herself, and that sovereignty that I would have felt in myself. I alluded to this in one of my last video, that what would happen if you took two people and they were living from a place of being fulfilled within themselves, and what kind of energy could they create, but seeing where, basically, I was selling myself short by not allowing, I was thinking, well, I'm going to take, I had that, I'm going to, when I got divorced from my first wife, I'm going to, no, never going to do that again. And I purposefully took time to be single, years, in fact. And that I can see now, even in that, I thought just that the time would allow for healing, but I wasn't putting in the footwork. I wasn't, I was still distracted by mainstream ideas and, the Disney fantasy and the white picket fence. And I'm not talking about just relationships. I'm talking about the world in general, go to work, and make money and have stuff. And, I wasn't dealing with any of those core distortions that I had, or delusions about what what we're taught. Yeah, you can be the president of the United States, or whatever. No thanks. By the way, no thanks. But initially, that selling myself short, not really doing any of the internal work, and sitting with my own junk, and truly processing that stuff, and not bringing those things into a relationship. To the best of our ability. But the things, again, going back to, it's an eye-opening experience, and the things, the behaviors, the actions, the manners, you name it, the things that I allowed, the way I allowed myself to be treated, all in the precept that I was fucking lonely. And I allowed these things. What would I accept just so I wouldn't feel lonely? And in that relationship, in my second marriage, there were high highs and hey, you know what? This might actually be it. And then, those high highs, and then those low lows, like, this is not okay. There's something truly wrong here. And I don't mean by pointing a finger at the relationship itself or her. There was something definitely going on with inside me that was recognizing that I was worth, there was a value to me that I was worth the pain of sitting with my junk to someday get to the other side, and see things with different eyes. And I'm very slowly getting to that point where I'm beginning to see those things with different eyes. And there is a certain satisfaction and contentment that I've been experiencing, more so in the last year. But good morning. Early morning walkers. They got their flashlights out. Lost my train of thought. Imagine that. A certain amount of contentment, and again, I alluded to that in my last video, where I had my experience a year ago, and seeing what is possible, what is possible within us as in this experience that we call life. What is possible? Maybe I haven't achieved it, but I got enough of a glimpse of it to see that there is a wholeness or fulfillment that we can experience within ourselves that alleviates that loneliness. I'm reminded too of, I remember, and I believe it was during the Marxist control of Russia, they did an experiment, rather dense experiment, but there was an orphanage, and let's just say there was 100 children in this orphanage. I'm amalgamating and consolidating information, so bear with me. But let's say there was 100 kids in this orphanage, and 50 of the kids were nurtured. They were given lots of physical affection, positive reinforcement, food, clothing, shelter, everything that you could possibly perceive as being nurturing. And then the other 50 were neglected. They weren't held, they weren't consoled, they weren't guided, directed, they were neglected. And I believe that it was like two-thirds, it's what they call failure to thrive. And the 50 that were neglected, the majority of them died for lack of affection, for lack of connection, for lack of nurturance. And I do firmly believe that we as a species need to have that connection, need to have that nurturance and reciprocation in our relationships, whether they be loving romantic relationships, familial friendships, soul family relationships. But the contentment that one would feel self-nurturing, self-loving, and I don't mean that in a mainstream selfish kind of way, but taking care of yourself, not just your physical body, but your emotional body, your spiritual body. Rest when you need to rest, eat when you need to eat, pamper yourself. I mean, me personally, I love a massage every once in a while. It's an amazing experience. Swimming in the ocean. What's nurturing to you? I found in more recent days, and I do mean very recent, quiet, like real quiet, not just. And I even like going out, I mean silence, actual silence, like the kind of silence you would experience if you put earplugs in. Nurturing ourselves and really leaning into that, and the benefit of leaning into that to have an expectation that somebody else is going to do that for you. I can't remember where it was penned, but expectations are the precursor to resentment. It might have been in the 12-step program that I was in, but that's definitely one. Having unrealistic expectations that breeds resentment, and having expectations of other. I'll take care of myself, and then share what I find. But dealing with a lot of the denser emotions lately, I'll wrap it up. Dealing with a lot of denser emotions of loneliness, and the type of loneliness that cannot be assuaged with being in a relationship. It's the kind of loneliness that you feel when you're all alone. And you're only left with yourself. What do you do? And the as I grow in my understanding about this, you see these ridiculous, or I'm not even going to judge it that way, but you see a meme, fall in love with your own, yeah, but the spirit of that is, I think, is very valid. Fall in love with your own life, and share that. Enjoying, what was it, last weekend, I actually took myself out on a date and went to see a movie. I even, this is just an example, what would you do if somebody asked you out on a date? What would you do? I got in the shower, I took a nice shower, shaved, did all, put on a nice shirt, cleaned myself up, took myself to a movie and out to dinner, enjoyed the dinner, I savored the dinner, I self-nurturing, man. It's good stuff. The only thing that was missing was the massage, if I could have, maybe next time. Rambles from a 53-year-old dude who thought he was having a nervous breakdown and a midlife crisis. Come to find out, it was just an awareness of coming to an awareness about the delusions, the illusions, and the control of this world, and the things that aren't true. And that truth you can find within. But loneliness, yeah. Don't sell yourself short, Don't, I sold myself short, and I allowed myself to be treated in a way that I would never treat someone else. I accepted that. I allowed that. Purely out of loneliness, and the awareness that I'm gaining around that, the understanding that I'm gaining around that, and where it came from. Why did I feel that way? Don't feel that way anymore, and I feel like I'm breaking through these obstacles, to see things with clearer eyes. And speaking of breaking through obstacles and seeing things with clearer eyes, I've made a few jokes on, I have a Facebook page, and I made a few jokes in more recent days about weed and mushrooms, but that's definitely something I'm planning, is I'm understanding a lot more about what it plant medicine, more natural, holistic ways of treating my body, and having greater awareness in the physical, tangible, but also how plant medicine can truly benefit us. And it is my intention to perhaps see what the whole mushroom, I've been looking into mushrooms and DMT and researching a lot of that, and I'll keep you posted. But for now, I'm going to sign off. I'm going to head into work with joy in my heart, and see where the day takes me. I hope, I truly hope that you have a wonderful day. I appreciate you being here. If you're in the deeps today, I know what that feels like. If you're feeling lonely today, I know what that feels like. You're not alone. Allow yourself to feel it and understand why you feel that way. And remember that you are valuable and you're worthy. It took a long time for me to remember that. Peace, you guys. I'm out.